views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program host and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by TCN TV Network Incorporated. Due to the social nature of this broadcasting channel, videos may contain content copyrighted by another entity or person. The TCN TV Network claims no rights to the said content. TCN TV Network cannot be held accountable for the copyrighted content. TCN TV Network is a messenger and sharer of information and strives to verify but cannot warrant the accuracy of copyrights or completeness of the information on this program.
We discuss all the issues, municipal, provincial, federal, and any issue of national importance. We will talk about on Point. Good evening and welcome. This is On Point, your political and current affairs talk show program that's broadcasting live from right here in the beautiful city of Brampton. It is 2020, and this is our first program for 2020, and we are very excited. This evening we have Tina with us, Tina Larsen, who is also a businesswoman, a philanthropist, a community, very involved in our community. Tina, it's great to have you. Happy New Year to you. Welcome back.
Happy New Year. Thank you for having me back.
All right. And Mario, we have Mario Russo, a Brampton businessman, a community advocate here in the city of Brampton. Mario, Happy New Year.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me back. And it's the roaring 20s, I guess.
Oh, yes. Yep. 2020.
Yeah.
So lots are happening this year in 2020. We want to say to all our viewers, all our supporters, all our sponsors that, we are very, very, very happy that you continue to watch us and to support us. If you're a business person, we have advertising opportunities on our program. So we are inviting you to advertise with us, get your business out there, get people to your business. All right, so that's opportunities. So as we start this year, we also want to start by saying condolences to the Ford family. Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, lost his mother earlier this week. So I just want to send out our condolences to him and to his family. You guys want to do any condolences or want to cover it all?
Yeah, same. It's hard to lose the matriarch of the family. I read she was suffering with cancer, so it is a delicate, and a lot of people have gone through this. So again, our condolences to the family as well.
All right.
Yeah, same.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So lots to talk about this evening. We're going to take a quick look at what's going on in our provincial politics. We're going to take a quick look at what's going on in our federal politics. And we also want to take a look at some of the happenings here in the city of Brampton. But some headlines. There is the threat of war that is taking place. We see the United States and Iran, they're at each other. And Canada is responding. Canada has some troops in that region. Canada has some troops over there in Iraq. Approximately about 500 troops are over there in Iraq, another 800 within the region. And Canada is taking some steps, Mario, to kind of bring our troops out of Iraq, out of harm's way. As Canadians, we are not very excited about war. We like to be peacekeepers. How do we see Canada's role, in all of this, in this escalating situation? What can we do as, what's our role?
Well, wartime and war discussions are always difficult. There is a responsibility to be peacekeepers across basically a global type of economy. But I believe Canada has always been someone that stepped up to the plate and helped others. That being said, it may be a good time to step back and take some of our troops out of harm's way until things somewhat are dealt with. One of the things and one criticism that our Prime Minister had or has is that he was on vacation for several weeks while this whole ordeal was going on. And, everyone is entitled to a vacation, but when you are the Prime Minister, it is difficult to be going through these major world crises events and, not being able to, or perhaps was tuned in, but even just the appearance of not being there doesn't necessarily bode well.
Yeah. Yeah, and let's talk about that a minute as well. We'll talk a bit more about that as well in terms of, you're right. There was so much silence from Canada. Tina, let's find a balance there. One of the things that we see is that when the U.S. president, for example, goes on vacation, you can see the media there with him, whether he's playing golf or sitting somewhere. At least you have some shots. Our prime minister technically disappeared for 17 days. Nobody, there was no media coverage. Nobody seems to see what was happening. And as Mario said, there was a world crisis going on. How do we balance that expectation of Canada, our prime minister being a world leader, yes, with some, but as well as some privacy time with his family? How do we balance all that?
I would like to see a little bit more action from him, like more us being more intimate with him. I guess you would call it intimate because we're intruding on his personal space. But I think as the Prime Minister of Canada, and we are known as the peacekeeping country, it would have been nice to have them come out, especially both him and his wife, and show that, yeah, we're on holidays, but we're well aware of what's going on. I'm sure they have been in communications with world leaders out there because it is not just a small crisis. This was pretty intense and still is. So, and I think Canada's going to play a very strong role. I think I agree totally with removing our troops. But I think on the peacekeeping side, I think Justin Trudeau can step in with his team and say, maybe play the mediator a little bit. And this is where we have our opportunity to shine as a country.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to see that.
And this is a unique time for us too, because we have a new government. Our foreign affairs minister is also new, was very silent as well over the holidays. Who's our foreign minister? Our foreign affairs minister, Francis Philippe Champagne. Very new, not very well known, but we're expecting them at this time to kind of come out and to talk and to have some kind of reason that Canada normally has within the world. Let's talk about some effects of climate change as well. Over in Australia, we see lots of wildfires burning like crazy in Australia. Tina, if you're a resident living in Australia, how concerned would you be?
I'd be very concerned. I'd be. It's so scary. I grew up in the south of France. Bushfires is something we also have, just like California. And I remember being young, coming home from a up in the Alps touring, and coming down the highways down to the coastline, and we had to drive through the bushfires. And it was really intense, and we were evacuated with military escort. So to me, it's really scary to be living or being close to it. And, there's not much you can do either. So it's you realize, my heart goes out to Australia.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when you saw the map and you saw that it was coming from every angle of or every side of the continent, it was unreal, and the size and the mass. Now, again, speaking as Canada, Canadians have now stepped up and sent, firefighters to help. I mean, that's one of the things that in times of need, that's what Canadians typically do, and step up and help our brothers and sisters abroad. And our hearts go out to them. I heard close to 1 billion animal species have been lost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
And
terrible.
we just finished donating some to the animals because we were at shock. My family particularly, at how many species are just at a loss. And, what's going to happen once this is handled, whatever way we're going to handle this.
And speaking of climate change, one of the knocks to our prime minister was that on his trip to Costa Rica, that two jets went back and forth a few times. So I just wanted to bring that in, and that's the climate that we're in. Sometimes is that the perception often becomes reality. So that's going to be a criticism. Avoid it.
Well, it is a criticism. I mean, you have two jets to take you on vacation. What is happening there? That's a matter of concern. You have to show. It's one thing for us to talk about, taking action on climate change. But it's another thing to look at the action that we do, and the more that the Prime Minister is contributing towards it. So that was a big concern there from the Prime Minister. One, not that he was in addition not to being present, not to have proper media there with you so we can see what's going on. The Canadians can be comfortable that their Prime Minister is still in action. But you're flying jets. There was criticism during the campaign, having 2 planes, 2 jets, and you're on vacation again with the same 2. That's something that we expect some difference from.
Now, I want to know what they need 2 jets for. Like, we're not talking Kim Kardashian and Kanye West here. And they only use one.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Yeah,
it's insane. The media is
the perception does not come across very well, and again, the social responsibility of it's not a necessity, it's a luxury. And let's be frank. If you're going to have the two jets, to your point, you should have been present. If you came back and spoke to the issue, if you came back and were actually met with world leaders about the issue, then I can understand it. But this is, the appearance is pleasure as opposed to business.
It said that Boris Johnson went to the Caribbean for his vacation as well, and he flew economy class.
Yep, I saw the
didn't take a
photos,
jet. Went flew economy. All right, lots to talk about here on Point. We'll take our first commercial break, the first for the year. When we come back, we're going to take a look at what's happening in Brampton. Lots have happened over the last few days, the last few weeks. Stay with us. We'll take a break. We'll come right back. Welcome back to On Point, your current affairs and political talk show program. We are live again from the Town of Caribbean Network studios right here in the city of Brampton. And we are talking politics. We are looking at the landscape of Canadian politics in 2020. So let's start at home right here in the city of Brampton. Brampton has been having a crime wave over the last few weeks or few days. This is how we have welcomed the new year. We had one incident that says there was 2 people getting injured, 3 people in custody, people throwing substance. What's happening, Tina? I mean, as a business person in the city of Brampton, how concerned are you with what's going on with these crime rates?
Of course, as a business person, I'm very concerned, but I'm also concerned as a mom. I think that it's been a tough year, and I think that, after Christmas, it's even tougher. And I think there's a lot going on with our economical standards in every, background. And I think that probably has a little bit to drive with this. And, I worry especially about families. I worry about children out there walking around, and I want especially the younger generation to come out and enjoy downtown Brampton or anywhere in Brampton because it drives the economy. And now, is it safe?
Yeah, this kind of lends itself to the speaking notes that at the end of last year, Mayor Patrick Brown was alluding to the need of cameras on the 410. The 410 is becoming a shooting gallery. It's insane to have so much violence while you're in a vehicle, completely as an innocent bystander is that needs to be curbed. But then that lends itself also to the fact that we have. There's politics being played, and we're seeing that between municipalities, Brampton, Mississauga, region of Peel, and the dollars that are being allocated towards Brampton, and that's going to be a big hot topic, I believe, in 2020. And Chief Nish has come up and saying we need X. They're not getting X, so that's something that we need to address. And then lastly, and I always speak to this, is we need our federal government to step up and change legislation. Is that people that are found with these or found guilty of these crimes need to be apprehended, and actually the consequences need to be dealt with, and that's not what's happening.
But it's not just on the 410 though, Mario.
No,
one vehicle was struck with several bullets on the 2nd of January at Highway 50 and Mayfield. I mean, that's way outside of the 410. And I look at vehicle being struck with all kind of bullets. it's a series of early morning robberies, in places like Bramaley and Countryside, North Park and McKay Street, Queen Street and Chinguacousy. All these early morning robberies. It's like we are in the wild, wild west or something.
It is, and that again, from when I had ran my campaign, and you were hearing, I was so surprised to find out how much gang activity occurs on the east side of the city, throughout the city, but on the east side, when you have somewhat of a perception of more affluent, $1 million homes, but there is so much criminal activity occurring, and this is where our police, our government needs to step in and give people the tools to actually do the job. We need to get to the root of the problem, not just addressing to the point of what I was mentioning, the 410. You're right. The guns don't stop at the border.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's something that needs to be addressed.
And I can tell you, for the business community, we used to be in that area, and we got broken into regularly. We'd see on camera people stealing our equipment or steal or anything. All you see is this person with a hoodie on, literally walking it out of they would cut open our fences and just walk it out. And that was regular. Like, we used to have the police come around more often. We asked for them to do more surveillance there, to be more present in that. That area has been rough.
And sorry, go ahead, Jermaine.
I'm not trying to figure out, though. I mean, 'cause Tina mentioned earlier in terms of the economic situation. People, it was a tough Christmas for some people. And then we see all these. We look at some attempted robberies. It would give the impression that people are trying to get something, right? I mean, is it therefore that we need more of a partnership with business community to say, let's give some people a second chance. You might have a criminal record. It might be hard for you to find a job. Do we therefore, have a kind of leadership where we collaborate with business and community to say, okay, this person have a criminal record, but not somebody violent. They want a second chance. Is that something that we're expecting to work with the business community to kind of get people back to work, so we don't need to have these kind of robberies and stuff like that?
Well, I think we all have a responsibility, and I think this is not a single pronged approach. This is multifaceted. But the reality is let's listen to the actual professionals. When the police themselves are saying that they do not have the resources, when the police themselves are saying that there's an inflow or an influx of guns coming across the border, and that is the root of the problem. How do we get to solve that problem? We'll leave it to the experts at this point in time. But we need to get to the root of that problem. It's not the legal handguns.
The funding is not.
It's this influx of illegal guns that are coming across our borders, and we are not finding a solution at this point in time.
And I think the funding's just not being given to Brampton, and Brampton's growing so rapidly that it's kind of a blink of the eye, boom, it's there. And I think we kind of ignored it for a couple of years because it wasn't that bad, and now it's just an epidemic of guns coming into Brampton because Brampton has grown so fast in population, and the funding for the police has not kept up to keep at bay this kind of stuff. And so we're so behind now.
So two quick things here. We got 50 new police officers. We're getting a police post in downtown Brampton. Is that a step in the right direction? Would that help to curb some of what we're seeing?
It's a step. But when I speak to officers themselves, especially in the downtown, this is the reality, is that the officers know a lot of the times whom the criminals are, unless they find them or catch them red-handed. So again, it's a revolving door. And that's why I allude back to the federal government, is this revolving door of criminal activity. People are caught, and so we are spending the money oftentimes, but it's just a revolving door, is that they are caught, apprehended, and it's a frustrating component as a business owner, as a resident, and when you're speaking to officers whom are friends often, you're putting people in harm's way when they know that this person potentially is going to come and do it again.
Yeah.
This is, I do believe in rehabilitation, but, there are certain scenarios that you do have to, increase that punishment so that there is a true deterrent.
And there is something to be said for that because, like, as a business owner, we got like robbed constantly, so we had to replace it. We actually got to the point of where we had to evaluate the value of doing it ourselves out of pocket for the business or with insurance because our insurance kept going up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was almost became impossible to deal with insurance. And insurance would just cut us off eventually, saying, like,
The risk is too much.
yeah, there's just too much. Like if it wasn't that pickup truck that got stolen, it was someone breaking into our office. If it wasn't that, they were out in the yard stealing equipment. It was just constant.
Yeah.
So there's a challenge here then in terms of, our mayor, for example, is out of town right now looking business. There's a challenge, a serious challenge, if you're going to try to attract businesses to a community that is so unstable, that has so much crime. How do you get people to invest?
Well, absolutely, and like I do applaud. I mean, these trade missions or whatever are good news stories. I hope in 2020 we can actually get some rate of return and understanding what our rate of return is when we do go on these trade missions. Some type of true analysis on how much business. I did see a post of some biodiesel company coming. G20, the cricket tournament is returning.
Yeah.
Those are good news stories. But to your point, when you're actually pitching this and then people do their due diligence, they actually see a lot of that negativity.
Yeah.
And Brampton has always had that negativity, that blue collar type of municipality that isn't warranted, but a lot of times that bad news supersedes the good news stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pedestrian safety. We had a young lady who got knocked down and hit and run recently. We have been having a few incidents of pedestrian safety in the city of Brampton. How do we deal with this to make sure
So
people are safe?
I might be the wrong person to ask this because I am a driver and I'm on the road a lot. The younger generation with their cell phones are lethal. They just don't look. So a lot of them just walk. And it's up to the drivers now to be extra cautious. So I have a 16-year-old that's going to start driving full-time probably at the end of this year. By the time he's done his driving training. And my biggest concern is him hitting someone. Because it's not just being a good driver anymore. It's actually focusing on where your pedestrians are. Because I find that people just walk anywhere they want to, and there's no respect for the vehicles whatsoever out there.
I can see Kevin Montgomery scratching his head now because it's not just the pedestrians, but we have drivers who are just not concentrated and focused on the road.
Well, this reopens the Charmaine Williams, Councillor Charmaine Williams' whole slow down campaign. This alludes or lends itself to Councillor Bowman pushing for the photo radar to be brought into implementation quicker. These are all things we can discuss as time goes on.
Let's pick that up again. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back. We'll talk a little bit more about this issue. Then we'll take a look at some provincial political matters. This is On Point. Stay with us.
At Benjamin Law, we understand the real cost of personal injuries. As the victim of an accident, you may be the one who's physically hurt, but your main concern is that your family are the ones who will pay the price. Benjamin Law will be there for you, helping, supporting, and working tirelessly to resolve your personal injury case. Call 1-855-899-4878 or visit benjaminlaw.ca and let our family of lawyers help your family.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
All right, welcome back to On Point, your political and current affairs talk show program. So we're taking a brief look at Brampton here. We were just on the point about pedestrian safety, and we made the point that, those who are pedestrians using the road, need to be alert. And we also talk about, the drivers and their importance for them also to be alert. Mario, you're talking about some new initiatives,
Yeah, the
photo radars.
The photo radar initiative that I know Councillor Bowman was pushing, and there's a period of time that those signs have to be erected and the public has to be informed. But this is a perfect example, is that in that time frame, we've had more casualties. So sometimes, the rules actually create more of a hindrance potentially. But one good thing, I guess, also, is the Ontario government has increased the fine and increased the severity of being found using your cell phone while driving.
Is it a deterrent though, Tina? I mean, increased fines, increased payments?
I don't know because I've seen more and more people on their cell phones and as a business owner, I don't take I take calls, but I don't take it on my cell phone. Like if my car can't pick it up and it's not through the car, I don't touch it. You know what? It can wait because I'm too much on the road to take that chance.
Yeah.
You know, and I think everybody needs to take that approach. I think I see so many young drivers on their cell phones texting. And you know what? There's going to be that second that you're looking down, and it's going to happen, and then you regret it, and it's the rest of your life you're carrying the guilt.
And Jermaine alluded to it. There is an element of non-respect for common courtesy for your fellow driver, your fellow pedestrian, and so forth. And that's something that is a societal problem that hopefully we can start improving.
All right, so let's take a quick jump now into some issues coming up 2020 on Ontario politics. In Ontario, the Liberal Party of Canada was almost wiped out in the last election. 2018, they were moved from being government to now where they are not even a party anymore in terms of the legislation, be recognized in the legislature. But they are trying to rebuild. You know, they're actually holding a leadership campaign on March 7th, 2022. Choose a new leader. You know, we have, I think it was good, Tina. We have 6 candidates, 3 men, 3 women, pretty balanced.
I know.
The women are represented well. I think you would love that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Yep. So we have three males, 3 women who are all very strong within themselves. You know, they are running to be the leaders of the Ontario Liberal Party. Mario, I want to talk about a little bit. I mean, they signed up 37,000 new members.
Yep.
You know, to choose who will be the next leader of the party. So if you can walk us through a little bit about, you know, how that process will work.
Yeah. Well, one thing I found interesting, and I think this is this is an educational component for all of us, and for myself included. When the internal mechanisms within parties and choosing leaders. So you see the number 37,000. You think that everyone's going to have a vote, but from what I'm reading, you know, there's going to be 16 delegates chosen from 124 ridings. So that will basically bring you to about 2,000 voters, if you will. Then you have 13 university campuses that have their respected, you know, liberal clubs that there is going to have representation. Then you also have about 400 or so officials that are eligible as delegates. So the Liberal government is expecting, or Liberal government, the Liberal Party is expecting about 2,500 possible voters and approximately 1,800 turnout. And that changes the dynamics because of that. It's very interesting on the weighing of where those votes are coming from. We saw that Del Duca, who was a former cabinet minister, signed up over 14,000. You know, Coteau is signed up over 8,500. But of that, will there be enough delegates? And then the power struggle of, you know, when someone falls off of the ballot, then where do those votes come? And we saw in the when Premier Ford became leader, he didn't have the actual numbers at the onset. The popular vote was going to Christine Elliott, but then the way that the votes went, and he ended up winning the majority of the ridings.
The ridings, yeah. I mean, Tina, I'm not so sure. I kind of, you know, well, that's one way to do it in terms of, you know, having delegates from each riding to go and choose. It's another thing to have if you sign up 37,000 members for the 37,000 members to be able to go out there and to vote for who they want to be the leader of the party. You know, your view on that.
I'm with you on that. I think I prefer the 30. If I'm going to be a member and there's 37,000 of us and we're picking a new leader, I think I should have a right in that say, and I don't think I like the idea of the delegate, but it works. Like, I guess it works.
Well,
sometimes.
We're hoping that as this gets closer, we potentially can have some of those candidates, and we can actually get their input on that. But you're 100% right. You sign up. You know, there's a fee to become that. You want to be part of that, the deciding body, and essentially you have the majority are actually not involved in the process. Not involved in the
process, and then who decides? I would love to find out from them, and we'll reach out to all the candidates to see if we can get them on to decide who decides who becomes a delegate, or how do you become a delegate?
Right.
If you just pay your membership, does that make you a delegate? Obviously not. So, that's kind of something you want to get people involved. And I think if you want to rebuild from the grassroots, that's something you should have really looked into.
And 37,000 is a smaller number. I would have liked to also know a little bit more about the actual numbers now, because for a province like Ontario, 37,000 is not a lot of people.
Yeah. So compare that though to the Conservatives. When they were having their leadership, the provincial Conservatives, when they were having their leadership under Patrick Brown, and as well as when Doug Ford and others ran, they were at a point where almost over 130,000 members that were signed up to the party. So compare that with the Liberals, who were wiped out. Should the Liberals, whoever the new leader there, be very concerned that we were only able to attract 37,000 members?
This is the chess game in politics that a lot of people don't see behind the scenes. Is the reality is how strong the rebuild and how quickly the rebuild can occur from the Liberal Party. How does the NDP start to play into this equation? Andrew Horvath has been quite quiet, I believe. I mean, there hasn't been too much coming out, and but
that's because she's so vocal usually.
and that starts to actually lend itself to the dynamics of how next governments are chosen, because we see that there are so many people that are actually far right, far left, and then there's the Liberals rely on that middle ground, and oftentimes if that middle ground is actually veering towards the left or the right, the Liberals, as we saw, suffer for that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, true.
That's interesting. So look at two other candidates. So we're not bring you a bit of profile on some other candidates. We have first up Mitzi Hunter. Mitzi Hunter is one of the three females who are running to be the leader of the party. She was the former Minister of Education. She is one of the two Mario, who is currently an MP. What's your feeling of Mitzi Hunter? Does you?
Well, I had the
Has she done the work to win?
I have the opportunity to meet Mitzi Hunter. I think she speaks very well. She obviously has the advantage of being an actual sitting MPP. The fact that we have 6, and of that only 2 are actually sitting MPPs doesn't really resonate strength. But that being said, Del Duca was a former cabinet minister, and the others have good profiles. But Mitzi, in terms of how she relates to Bramptonians, we were discussing this off the air. It was she that made the announcement that the university was coming to Brampton. I know the Liberals, after the university was, the funding was not allocated. I'd like to ask the question of where was that funding and where was it going to be coming from the onset? So that's as a Bramptonian. Well, these are the questions that Bramptonians, whomever are of the Liberal, that go that direction, should be asking of those leaders. Was it something that they had a good financial and fiscal plan on? What was it a tactic? Was it these are questions?
Yeah, was it just hot air?
Yeah, and these are things that I believe
where is that budget
that
now?
anyone whom is a Liberal and gets involved in that process needs to understand and ask those questions.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll ask Del Duca the question: why did the 410 expansion stop at Queen Street? Because that drives me nuts.
Before we get to Del Duca, Tina, we have only had one female elected premier of this province before. Mitzi Hunter is Ontario ready to elect another female premier?
Absolutely. We've done a great job. Like, all set aside, I think women have done a great job in the province. So yes, for sure, and we're ready to also to vote on the federal side on women. Women can run the country, no problem.
Okay, all right. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we will say a bit or two about Stephen Del Duca, the other candidate we're profiling this evening, and we also have lots more to talk about. Stay with us. This is On Point.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
My name is Trish Curling, and I am an online coach, personal trainer, and yoga teacher, and your new host of Shaping Life, which is all about understanding that we have the ability and the control to take charge of our health and wellness. But we can't do it alone, and I can't wait to sit down with the best in the industry. Please tune in every Friday at 1 p.m. live here on the TCN Network.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us here on Point. We're looking at the political landscape for 2020 here in Canada, and we're talking about Ontario. Ontario's Liberal Party is looking to find a new leader, and one of the persons who is running is Stephen Del Duca. Tina, you want to tell us your impression of Mr. Del Duca? What do you think about his chances? As a former Minister of Government, what do you feel about it?
I think that he came out early last year, so I've been kind of watching him here and there, and I think he has a really strong chance. He's probably in one of my favorites, unfortunately, but now that three wonderful ladies stepped up, I'm going to have to change that. But I think he's definitely been molded all along. He's been in politics for a long time. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he knows that there's a big fight ahead of him. And I think he's up for the challenge for it. I don't know a lot about him in his past career, but I do think that he's, unfortunately, because I would like to see a woman come back, but he is in my top favorite for the Liberal Party. For if, let's say, God forbid, they won the...
Stephen Del Duca wanted to be the first elected chair at York Region, but that was also pulled. So now he's running to be leader. Is he ready to lead the Ontario Liberals?
Well, he has a long history. I mean, he was the EA to Sobera, who was the finance minister. The numbers speak for themselves somewhat. I mean, he's already signed up 14,173 members. That's a big percentage. So if that translates into votes, he's thus far the leader. But his ability to raise funds, his holding portfolios as Minister of Transportation. My knock again. I'm glad that 410 was expanded, but to Queen Street as a Bramptonian, that's something that we need to hold them accountable to. But that being said, I think he's going to be the man to beat. But again, that's the whole point. There's a long time from now to March 7th, as funny as that sounds, and a lot of twists and turns can occur, and whom backs whom, or whose support goes behind someone else, changes the dynamic significantly.
And
right?
the way they're doing this delegates, like that could change everything at the last minute.
Yeah, let's look at one final thing here before we jump to some other federal politics. A one-day strike is coming up tomorrow. We're back at this again. There was no strike over the Christmas holiday. There was no strike over the New Year's holiday. Now we're back at it.
Yep.
Can we get the unions and the teachers to get to some settlement so the kids can stay in the classroom?
That's going to be the goal. And me as a parent that has a daughter in high school, that drives me nuts. Every week it's kind of like, oh, we're watching the news. Strike next week. Strike next week. Strike. This is going to be. It has to be dealt with. Again, we've spoken about the collective bargaining process. We've spoke about the minister getting involved, and now it's going to be really people getting to work and hopefully working to do the due diligence and really putting kids at the forefront. Right.
Well, and putting kids at the forefront, how do you do that if you don't strike during Christmas and that? Like, I don't know. I have an issue with that. Like, to me, they could have had a strike during Christmas to show that it's not just about, impacting everybody. It's, I find that that's not happening.
That's interesting. No strikes during Christmas. Well, we really hope that that the unions and the government will kind of get back to the table and resolve this, because parents and kids eventually will suffer for this, especially those who are in high school who are preparing for work, right?
Yeah, this is an episode on its own.
Yeah, for sure. So federal politics, we touched that before we wrap up this evening. The Conservatives are also looking for a leader. The Conservative Party of Canada is also looking for a leader. Many names are being branded about and pushed about, but Pierre Poilievre is one of the earliest out. We understand that he has summoned or picked up John Beard to be his campaign manager to kind of help lead. Your impressions of Pierre? Who would I jump in there?
Well, I mean, again, the having Baird as your as the campaign chair is very interesting. I mean, obviously, the big names bring out dollars, bring out support, so that will be interesting. Obviously, Peter MacKay is someone who's been always spoken about. But I found it interesting that an internal poll showed that Polyev was actually favored. But again, polls.
No, we have all kind of polls these days. Polls are polls.
Polls are polls. But it was something that was interesting. I believe an article that I read, they'll have till the 13th, so less than a week, to actually come forward. That's when we know who the players are. The Rona Ambrose, the Aaron O'Toole, whomever. Those are going to be the players. So until we have all the players, it was interesting though that they expedited to June 27th, and that's something that is important. I think it's a smart move. Media is playing on the fact that happens to be Pride Week.
Well, things happen. Things go on.
Absolutely, but Lisa Raitt, who's one of the co-chairs, obviously spoke. It's June, so June is going to always coincide with Pride. But it may be a smart tactic of actually getting more involved with that movement as well. So these are going to be the interesting notes until the actual election chosen.
One of the things I found interesting, Tina, is that the entry fee into this race is $300,000 to enter the race. And we're talking about big money in politics. Isn't this the epitome of big money in politics? I mean, good people who have the skills that can lead this country and lead this party would be deterred by that $300,000 entry fee.
I'm going to be careful what I say now.
Yeah, well, that's the unfortunate part of politics.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think that because you're raising that fund, it's not coming out of your pocket. It's going to be fundraised, whether you're remortgaging a house right away just to make the payment, or if it's just sitting there or whatever. But it's fun. Eventually, it's fundraised.
Yeah, it's commitment. Yep.
So it's coming back, and I think that you need to have those connections to run a country like Canada. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, wow, you can run a country without those connections. Well, yes and no. And from a business perspective, I hope that my prime minister at least understands some kind of business.
Yeah.
So he does have to have the connections. On foreign affair profiles, you have to have certain connections to be able to be respectful, be the country to be respectful.
It's a historical fact. I mean, I was watching a program in the final weeks of Trump's campaign. They were spending over $1 million a day on Facebook ads alone. That's the reality of politics. And as you go higher, the dollars increase. It's an unfortunate part of democracy, but it's the reality of it. There's always exceptions to that, but that's a reality that we deal with.
But one of the things that we see, though, and you mentioned, we don't talk a lot about U.S. politics, but one of the things that we see, particularly if you look at the U.S. politics as it is right now, we find that they are in a push to kind of get big money out of the politics, and they are looking for a lot more grassroots support, small donations. Bernie Sanders, for example, will boast about how many small donations he's getting. Shouldn't we be looking at that? And then you make the time frame so short to raise that $300,000. People don't have time to kind of go out there and appeal to a wide cross section of conservatives to say, hey, come on, contribute. Here's what I want to be.
Absolutely. And Jermaine, you speak to the reality of it, but whom are making the actual decisions? The politicians themselves make those rules. So very, very seldomly will they make rules that are in their not in their self-interest. So
exactly.
It's and the reality of this is the reality. Is when I actually ran as well. This is when we have low voter turnout. This is what's seen more. When you have a higher voter turnout and that grassroots ability or factor, you're going to have more engagement. Yeah. But it's unfortunately a double-edged sword. Is that the higher the dollars is, more people get disengaged. Yeah. But then that actually feeds into this. It's always the select few that are the chosen individuals.
Tina, the last time around, the Conservatives allow each and every member to be able to vote. They are known for doing that. That's one of the reasons why they did not want to take a unilateral decision to remove Andrew Scheer. They wanted to put it to the members. How important it is that they continue this tradition to make sure that members are actually the ones voting to decide their next leader.
I'm more in pro for that. I'm more favor for that. I think that members, when you're a member, you should have the right to have a say. And I don't like this delegate having someone speak for me, because what if they change their mind last minute?
Yeah,
Who
that
knows
happens.
what they're going to do in politics?
Absolutely.
Everything happens every day, right? So
Well, I found it
I don't
interesting
like
that one of the actual potential people are throwing their hats in the name is a gentleman from Montreal, Vincenzo Guzzo, who's on Dragon's Den. It's very similar to the whole, potentially, it's going to be portrayed very similar to the whole O'Leary scenario and name recognition and so forth. And that's what ends up happening in these leadership races. You get people that are there for the right reason, potentially. You got people that are trying to get brand recognition. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But would we take him seriously, though? Or should conservatives take him seriously? Because Kevin O'Leary came, ran a very, what people might say, fairly decent campaign. A lot of people were on board. Then eventually decided, hey, you know what, man, I prefer the yachts and the boats and the stuff like that. I don't want to be doing this.
Yeah.
So would the people take another businessman, not knowing political experience, would conservatives take him
No.
seriously?
No, I
not
don't
right
believe
now.
so. But stranger things have occurred. Trump is the president of the U.S.,
well,
correct?
and hence why I don't think Canadians are ready for that, because we have our own issues with our neighbor. But you can look at Putin,
Yep.
right? Very successful businessman, and he's done wonderful things for Russia. He's done some different things too, but I just
That's a
think
different
that-
show as well.
Exactly, but he really has done some. So it's not a bad thing, depending on how it's handled and how it goes through. And I think Canada right now is not ready for that. I don't think that it should be even. I think it's a bad idea for anybody that's going to consider throwing their names in there. If you're a businessman, right now is not the right time.
All right, we're about to wrap up now, Mario. Before we go, name to watch. Who should we be watching in 2020? Who are the big political players for us to watch in 2020?
Well, again, it's going to be interesting. Both races are going to be very interesting. Federally for the Conservatives, provincially the Liberals. That's going to be interesting. I do want to see what's happening with Jagmeet Singh and his leadership status. Will they continue to go in that direction or not? There's going to be a lot of stories at all levels.
Yeah.
So we're going to have our hands full, covering this. I do want to end with the fact that I do believe our Prime Minister tried to copy me over the holidays and grow the beard. So I wanted to conclude with that. But it will be interesting with all these races and some serious stuff.
It's going to be
Anybody
very
you are
busy
watching? Anybody you are watching in 2020?
I'm actually going to be watching our own personal mayor.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to watch Brampton and the mayor and
All
see
right,
what happens here. His hands are full in Brampton. So,
Okay, let's see. Let's see.
Stay
All
on the
right.
municipal side.
All right, so that's a wrap. This is the first edition for On Point. Stay with us next week. We have 2 city councillors here in the city of Brampton who are confirmed to come on. We look forward to talking with them. And then, as we said, we will have as well some of the leadership contenders in Ontario who will come to join us. So thanks for watching. See you again in 7 short days.